My name is Daniel Carter. I rent a one-bedroom apartment in a building nobody brags about. The kind of place people apologize for before giving you the address. It's old, it's cheap, and until last week it was normal. No strange noises, no warnings, no history worth mentioning. The first night I moved in, I closed the door, locked it, and finally exhaled. That's when I saw it. A single sheet of paper, taped neatly to the inside of my front door. A list of rules. Typed. Numbered. Calm. I laughed. I actually laughed, because it felt like something a landlord would do to scare new tenants. Until I noticed the date written at the top. Today's date. That didn't make sense, because when I checked my phone it was still yesterday. And according to the lease, I hadn't moved in yet. I wasn't running from anything. No breakup. No debt collectors. No dramatic reason that would make sense in a story. I just needed somewhere cheap, quiet, and temporary. The kind of place you rent when you don't plan on staying long enough to care about the paint. I worked IT support for a regional insurance company. 8 hours a day, listening to people explain problems they caused themselves. It paid the bills. So when I found the apartment, I didn't ask many questions. The building sat on the edge of downtown, where the bars stopped and the streetlights started to flicker more often. It was built sometime in the 70s. You could tell by the carpet, the yellowed light fixtures, and the faint smell of something old that never quite went away. Dust, old carpet cleaner, and a hint of mildew that no amount of air freshener could kill. The hallway lights buzzed softly at night, not loud enough to complain about, just loud enough to notice when everything else went quiet. I could hear my neighbors through the walls. Coughing, shuffling footsteps. A television playing late-night reruns. But I never heard anyone laugh. Never heard music. Never heard arguments. Just the sounds of people existing carefully. The woman in the apartment below mine locked her door every night at exactly 9:00 p.m. I noticed because the sound was unmistakable. 3 clicks. Always 3. If I came home after 9, her lights were already off. No movement. No noise. Once, I passed her on the stairs. She kept her eyes down and held her keys like she was afraid I might grab them. She smelled like mothballs and something sour underneath. The man across the hall was worse. He was tall, thin, and always looked tired. Every time I saw him, he stared at the wall just over my shoulder. Never my face. I tested it once, stepping to the side. His eyes didn't follow. He just nodded, quickly, like he'd acknowledged something else entirely. I tried small talk. Weather. The elevator. The noise. He never responded. Just tightened his grip on the grocery bag and walked away faster than necessary. At night, my routine was simple. Microwave dinner. Sit on the couch. Let the TV talk until I was too tired to think. The building settled after midnight. Pipes knocking. A soft creak in the walls. The distant hum of traffic outside. Normal sounds. Comforting, even. But every now and then, usually when the TV volume dropped between scenes, I felt like the apartment was listening. Not watching. Listening. Waiting for me to finish something before it made its own noise. I told myself it was stress. New place. Thin walls. That's what apartments do. They make you aware of other people's lives. I just didn't realize yet how aware this one really was. I read the list 3 times that night. Not because it was long, because it was wrong. The rules were written like someone had lived here a long time. Like they'd made mistakes and survived them. They weren't dramatic. No exclamation marks. No jokes. Just calm instructions, like a safety manual for something nobody should need a manual for. Rule #1. Do not open the front door between 12:01 and 3:17 a.m. If someone knocks, it is not for you. Rule #2. If the bathroom light turns on by itself, do not look in the mirror. Rule #3. If you hear someone walking in your apartment and you are alone, pretend to be asleep. Rule #4. Never answer if the voice sounds like you. Rule #5. If the list updates while you are reading it, close your eyes. Count to 36. At the bottom, in smaller print, was a line that didn't feel like a rule. It felt like a reminder. If you break a rule, the apartment will learn something about you. I told myself it was a prank. A weird tradition. Maybe a former tenant had left it behind. Maybe the landlord thought it was funny. Still, I took the paper down and set it on the kitchen counter. I didn't throw it away. I wish I had. I went through my normal routine anyway. Microwave dinner. TV on low. Phone in my hand, scrolling without reading. But my eyes kept drifting to the rules. Like they were a live thing. Like they might move when I wasn't looking. At 11:58 p.m., the hallway light outside my peephole flickered. Once. Twice. Then steadied. At 12:01, I heard a soft knock. Not aggressive. Not impatient. Just polite. 2 taps. A pause. Then one more. My stomach tightened so fast it felt automatic. I stayed still on the couch, remote in my hand. The TV kept talking, but the voices sounded farther away, like I dropped my head underwater. There was another knock. Then silence. And in that silence I noticed something else. A faint sound inside my apartment. Not the pipes. Not the building settling. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Like someone was walking barefoot across my living room. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe right. Rule #3 flashed in my mind so clearly, it might as well have been carved into the wall. Pretend to be asleep. My eyes drifted toward the dark hallway leading to my bedroom. The bathroom door sat half open, black inside. And then the bathroom light clicked on. I felt my skin go cold. It wasn't a flicker. It wasn't a power surge. It was a decision. The light poured into the hallway, bright and clean, like nothing was wrong. For a moment, my brain tried to normalize it. Bad switch. Loose wiring. Old building. Then I saw the mirror. From where I sat, I could just barely see the edge of it in the bathroom. A sliver of glass catching the light. And in that sliver something shifted. Not a reflection. A shape. Moving like it was trying to line itself up with me. I forced my eyes away. I stared at the TV and let the noise wash over me. But the TV volume had turned down. I hadn't touched the remote. The room felt too quiet now, like it was waiting for me to notice. Then I heard a voice. Not from the hallway. Not from the door. Right behind my ear. Like someone leaning close. Daniel. My name soft, familiar, almost kind. I froze. The voice sounded like my mother when I was a kid, calling me down for dinner. Then, Halfway through the last syllable, it changed. It became my voice. Perfect. Exact. Even the small nasal edge I hated when I heard recordings of myself. Daniel, it said again. Rule #4. Never answer if the voice sounds like you. I didn't answer. I didn't turn around. I sat there until my eyes burned and watered, until the TV rolled into an infomercial, and the screen got brighter, until the bathroom light turned off by itself. When I finally made it to bed, I didn't sleep. I counted. I listened. I waited for another knock that never came. Morning arrived like a lie. Sunlight through blinds. Traffic outside. Normal sounds trying to erase what happened. I padded to the kitchen and looked for the list on the counter. It was still there. Same paper. Same neat formatting. Same handwriting at the top. But the date had changed. It was today now. And the rules were different. Rule #3 wasn't there anymore. Instead, there was a new one. Rule #3. Do not stand in the hallway if the lights go out. If you need to move, crawl. I stared at it for a long time, trying to convince myself I was misremembering. I wasn't. Something had removed a rule like it was obsolete, and replaced it with a new warning, like it had watched me last night and decided I needed different instructions.
Here Trumpa shall always relevant.
That's when my fear stopped being theoretical. These weren't rules for the building. They were rules for me. I went across the hall and knocked on the tall man's door. No answer. I tried again louder. Nothing. I went downstairs and waited by the mailboxes until the old woman came out. She opened her door exactly at 8:58 a.m., like she was timed. "Excuse me," I said, keeping my voice gentle. "Do you know anything about the rules?" Her face went tight. She didn't look at the paper. She didn't look at me. She looked past me, down the hallway, as if checking whether someone was listening. Then she whispered, barely moving her lips. "Don't ask." I stepped closer. Why? Her eyes finally met mine, and for a second, I saw pure exhaustion there. Not fear. The kind of tired you get from surviving the same night too many times. "Because it updates," she said. And then she did the strangest thing. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her own list. Same paper. Same handwriting. Different rules. She shoved it back like she'd shown me something illegal, then hurried to the stairwell and disappeared. I stood there with my list in my hand, heart beating slow and heavy. And for the first time since I moved in, I felt the building breathe around me. I stopped calling them rules out loud. In my head they were something else. A leash. A contract. A set of instructions for staying human. After the old woman showed me her list, I went back upstairs and locked my door twice, once out of habit, once out of fear. I laid my paper on the kitchen counter and stared at it like it might bite. Same crisp formatting. Same calm tone. Same handwriting at the top, as if someone wanted it to feel personal. And now I knew the worst part. It wasn't one list. Everyone had one. And they weren't the same. That night, I didn't turn the TV on. I didn't heat dinner. I sat at my table with the overhead light glaring down, like brightness could keep the dark in its place. I reread the rules slowly. Rule #1, do not open the front door between 12:01 and 3:17 a.m. If someone knocks, it is not for you. Rule #2, if the bathroom light turns on by itself, do not look in the mirror. Rule #3, if you hear someone walking in your apartment and you are alone, pretend to be asleep. Rule #4, never answer if the voice sounds like you. Rule #5, if the list updates while you are reading it, close your eyes. Count to 36. Rule #6, if you break a rule, the apartment will learn something about you. I waited for my brain to reject it, to laugh it off, to find a reasonable explanation. But the building didn't give me room for reasonable. At 11:59 p.m., my phone lost signal. Full bars to nothing, like the air itself had been unplugged. At 12:00, the hallway buzz went silent. Not softer. Gone. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring because they're trying too hard to hear. And then, like the building was making sure I understood, the schedule a knock came. At 12:01. 2 taps. A pause. One more. Exactly like the night before. I stared at my front door. My hand drifted toward the knob on instinct. The way you reach for something hot before you remember it burns. I pulled my hand back and forced myself to stay seated. The knock came again. This time, it wasn't polite. It was patient. As if whatever was on the other side knew I was listening. As if it enjoyed the fact that I was. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched the peephole. And the peephole darkened. Not like a shadow passed. Like something pressed against it. For half a second, I thought I saw skin. Not human skin, too smooth, too pale, like wax. Then it slid away. The knock stopped. And my door handle turned. Not enough to open the lock. Just enough to test it. I felt my throat tighten so hard it hurt. Rule #1 wasn't a warning. It was a boundary line. When the handle stopped moving, I heard something else soft, thin, almost playful. A fingernail dragging down the wood. Slowly. Like someone tracing my door to memorize it. Then, the sound faded, not away from me, but into the building, like it had slipped back into the walls. Oh. I didn't exhale until my lungs shook. I thought that would be the worst of it. I was wrong. Because the apartment didn't just want to get in. It wanted to understand me. The bathroom light clicked on at 12:24. Bright, clean, deliberate. Rule #2 flared in my mind. Do not look in the mirror. I stood in my kitchen, frozen, and stared at the bathroom doorway like it was a mouth. The light made the mirror visible from where I stood. Not my reflection, just the edge of glass, catching a hard, white line. I kept my eyes away from it and walked to my bedroom. I didn't run. Running felt like admitting something was chasing me. I got into bed fully clothed, phone in my hand, and faced the wall. Rule #3, pretend to be asleep. Then I heard footsteps. Not in the hallway outside, inside. The soft creak of floorboards by my living room. A slow shift of weight, as if someone was taking time to learn how I moved. I held my breath. The footsteps paused near my bedroom doorway. A shadow fell across the carpet. I didn't turn. A voice came next, quiet, close, intimate. Not my voice yet. A memory. Danny, it whispered. My childhood nickname. One I hadn't heard in years. The hairs on my arms lifted. It wasn't saying it to get my attention. It was testing the word. Like tasting it. Then it tried again. Daniel, it said. And this time it sounded like my mother. Same cadence. Same softness. Same tiny catch in the throat, like she was smiling as she spoke. The sound hit me so hard my eyes stung. Then the voice shifted mid-breath. It became mine. Perfect. Exact. Daniel, it said again, and now it sounded annoyed. Like I was the one being rude for not answering. Rule #4, never answer if the voice sounds like you. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. I didn't answer. The footsteps moved again. Slowly, calmly, like it had all night. They crossed the living room. Stopped in the bathroom. The light stayed on. For a full minute, nothing happened. Then I heard water run. The sink turning on, gentle at first, then stronger. And over the sound of water, a soft humming started. A tune I recognized. Not because it was popular. Because I used to hum it when I was nervous. Something I did without thinking. The apartment wasn't just copying sounds. It was copying habits. I squeezed my eyes shut and tried to count seconds by heartbeat. My phone vibrated once, then died. Black screen. No power. The humming stopped. The water shut off. The footsteps returned, slower now, heavier, as if whatever it was had become more comfortable wearing weight in my space. It paused at the foot of my bed. I could feel it there. Not as heat, not as breath, as pressure. Like the air had thickened into a hand. Then it leaned closer. I felt the mattress dip. A whisper brushed my ear. "You're doing good tonight," my voice said, softly, approvingly. A friendly tone. A reward. I fought the urge to scream. And then it left. Not with footsteps. With silence. The kind of silence you hear when someone holds a door open and waits for you to walk through. I lay there until my muscles cramped. Until my eyes burned from staying shut. Until the bathroom light finally clicked off by itself. I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling until morning made everything look harmless. At 7:12 a.m., my phone turned on again. Full battery. Full bars. As if nothing had happened. I went to the kitchen and looked at the list. And my stomach sank. There were smudges on it. Not fingerprints. Not dirt. Like the ink had been wet again, and something had brushed across it. Rule #5 sat in the middle of the page. If the list updates while you are reading it, close your eyes. Count to 36. I didn't want to test it. But my eyes flicked over the paper anyway. And the date at the top shifted. Not changed. Shifted. Like a digital clock rolling forward in slow motion. I felt the blood drain from my face. The words didn't blur. They didn't fade. They rewrote. Right in front of me. Letter by letter. Rule #2 remained. Rule #3 remained. But rule #1's time window changed. Do not open the front door between 12:01 and 3:31 a.m. A new time. A new boundary. And beneath rule #4, a new line appeared, as if added as an afterthought. If it says your full name, do not breathe. My vision tunneled. I remembered rule #5. Close your eyes. Count to 36. I shut my eyes so hard it hurt, and counted. 1, 2, 3. By 12, I could hear a faint scratching inside the walls. By 20, the overhead light buzzed like it was straining. By 30, I smelled something cold and metallic, like pennies left in snow. 36. I opened my eyes. The page was still. Still ink. Still paper. But the rules were different now. The apartment wasn't haunted. It was aware. It listened. It watched. And every night it adjusted. I needed answers. Real ones. From a living person. I went downstairs again and waited by the mailboxes. The old woman appeared right on time. Bag in hand, eyes down. Please, I said. I'm not trying to bother you. My voice shook. I hated that. Her jaw tightened. You're new, she whispered, like the word itself was dangerous. Yes. She stared at my door behind me, not at me. Then she said, don't let it learn you. What is it? I asked. She swallowed. Not a ghost. That chilled me more than if she'd said demon. It's the building, she continued. Or what lives in it. Or what it became. Her eyes finally met mine. It remembers. It collects. It's hungry in a quiet way. I held up my list. Why does it change? Because you're changing, she said. I'm not. You are, she cut in. You're paying attention. You're afraid. You're thinking of leaving. She leaned closer, voice barely audible. It doesn't like losing tenants. I tried to speak, but my throat locked. She nodded toward my paper. Rule #6 is the only one that matters. If you break a rule, the apartment will learn something about you. What does that mean? I asked. Her lips trembled. It means it gets better at being you, she whispered. And worse at letting you be yourself. A door creaked somewhere above us. Not loudly. Just enough to remind us. The building was listening. The old woman flinched. She backed away like she'd said too much. Before she left, she added one last thing. If you ever see yourself in the hallway, she said. Eyes wide now. Don't blink. Then she turned and hurried out into the morning. And I was left standing in the lobby with my list in my hand, feeling the walls around me like a throat. That night, I taped the rules back to my front door. Not because I trusted them. Because I was starting to understand the truth. The list wasn't there to protect me. It was there to keep the apartment entertained. To keep me alive long enough to learn me properly. Please, I told myself I could survive this as long as I followed the rules. That was the lie I needed. Because the truth was simpler. The apartment didn't care if I survived. It only cared if I learned. The next night, I heard someone break. It started with arguing. Muffled voices through the wall, low, sharp, exhausted. I couldn't make out the words at first, just the tone. Then I recognized one of them. The tall man across the hall. The one who never looked at me. He was talking to someone inside his apartment. A woman, I think. She sounded angry. He sounded desperate. The building stayed quiet, like it was listening. Then the hallway lights flickered. Once. Twice. And my list taped to my door rustled softly, like paper catching a breath. A knock came at 12:01. Not on my door. On his. 2 taps. Pause. One more. The arguing stopped instantly. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then I heard him whisper. Not through the wall. Through the hallway. I heard his door unlock. My stomach dropped. I stood at my peephole, barely breathing. The hallway was dim, but I could see his outline in the crack as he opened the door. I couldn't see what was outside. Only darkness. He didn't step out. Not fully. He leaned forward like he was listening. Then very softly, he said a name. Not my name. His own. Like he was answering a call. The hallway light went out. All of it. In a single blink. Rule #3 from my list flashed in my head. Do not stand in the hallway if the lights go out. If you need to move, crawl. I wasn't in the hallway. But I felt the rule latch onto the moment anyway. Like a warning meant to be heard. From somewhere in that darkness, I heard a sound that didn't belong to a person. A wet inhale. Like lungs full of water trying to breathe. Then a voice smooth, careful, polite. Thank you, it said, and it sounded like the tall man. Perfectly. His door shut. The lights came back on, and the hallway was empty. No footsteps, no elevator, no stairwell creak. Just empty. Like he'd never been there at all. I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch with the lights on until morning, watching my door like it might open from the inside. At 6:48 a.m., I heard a scream. It punched through the wall so hard I thought glass would shatter. Not words. Just terror. A sound ripped straight out of a human throat. Then another scream shorter, higher, panicked. And then it cut off. Not faded. Not muffled. Cut. Like someone had grabbed the end of the sound and snapped it. The silence afterward felt thick. Wrong. I ran to my peephole. The hallway looked normal. No blood. No people. No sign of anything. I opened my door just a crack. Chain still on and listened. Nothing. Not even the old hum of the lights. The building felt like it was holding its breath. I shut the door and locked it, shaking. When the sun finally rose, I left my apartment for the first time in 2 days. I went straight across the hall. His door was there. Same peeling paint. Same numbers. But the space beneath it was too dark. Not shadow dark. Bottomless. Like the floor behind the door wasn't a floor anymore. I leaned closer, and I smelled it. Cold metal. Wet concrete. And something sweet underneath, like rot masked by perfume. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I pressed my ear to the wood, and I heard something faint. A slow scratching, like nails dragging along the inside of the wall. Then a voice, right against the door. My voice. Daniel, it whispered, warm and friendly. Open it. Rule #4. Never answer if the voice sounds like you. I stumbled back so fast I hit my own door. The old woman's door opened downstairs. I heard her shuffling up the stairs, fast for her age. She saw me standing there and her face went pale. You talked to it, she hissed. I didn't, I said. But my voice shook like a confession. She grabbed my wrist with surprising strength and yanked me into my apartment. Did you look at the hallway when the lights went out? She demanded. I know. I was at the peephole. She released a breath sharp. Good. Good. Then her eyes cut to my door. It's learning you. Faster now. What happened to him? I whispered. She didn't answer at first. She just stared at the wall, like she could see through it. Then she said he got tired. Tired of what? Tired of not knowing. Her voice turned bitter. Tired of rules. Tired of being scared in his own home. She swallowed. So he tried to make it stop. How? She pointed at my door at the paper. He broke rule #1. My stomach dropped again. He opened the door, I said. The old woman nodded. And it thanked him. A chill ran through me. I looked back at his door, then at my list. The date at the top was today. But the ink looked fresh, like it had been written within the last hour. Rule #1 had changed again. And now, at the bottom, there was something new. A rule #7. The handwriting was messier. Uneven. Like a hand was shaking. Rule #7. If you hear screaming through the walls, do not call for help. Do not check the hallway. It wants you to watch. My throat went dry. That's new, I whispered. The old woman's eyes flicked to it, then away, like reading it was dangerous. It's excited, she said. That night, the building didn't wait until 12:01. It started early. At 11:43, my bathroom light turned on. I stayed away from the mirror. At 11:55, my phone died again. At 12:00, the hallway hum went silent. And then, I heard footsteps. Not inside my apartment. Outside. In the hallway. Slow. Barefoot. Coming toward my door. I held my breath and watched the peephole. Nothing. No movement. But I could still hear the footsteps, stopping right in front of my door. Then a whisper slipped through the wood. Not through the gap. Through the material itself, like the door had turned thin. Daniel. My mother's voice said softly. Then my voice, immediately after, open up. I just want to talk. I stared at the chain lock. At the deadbolt. At the knob. The urge to respond was physical, like an itch in my throat. Then very quietly my door handle moved. Just a fraction. Testing. I backed away shaking, and my elbow hit the kitchen counter. The paper list fluttered. And I realized something I hadn't considered. Rule #5. If the list updates while you are reading it, close your eyes. Count to 36. I hadn't been reading it. But the list was moving anyway. Like something had just brushed the paper from the other side. A new line bled into existence under Rule #7. Not typed. Handwritten. If it touches your rules, it is inside. My heart kicked. I squeezed my eyes shut and counted. 1, 2, 3. The scratching started in the walls. Not one place. Everywhere. Like fingers testing the seams of the room. By 15, the bathroom light flickered. By 22, the TV turned on by itself, white static, whispering under the hiss. By 30, I smelled that sweet rot again. 36. I opened my eyes. The words were still there. If it touches your rules, it is inside. Something tapped my shoulder. Not hard. A gentle pressure. Like someone asking politely for my attention. Every muscle in my body locked. Rule #2 screamed in my mind, don't look in the mirror. Rule #3, pretend to be asleep. Rule #4, don't answer. But none of the rules told me what to do when it was already in the room. A breath slid along my neck. My own breath. Copied. Then my voice, right behind me, soft and amused, good, it whispered. Now you understand. And from the hallway outside, another knock began at someone else's door. 2 taps. Pause. 1 more. The building was moving on. It had learned enough from him. Now it wanted the rest from me. I left on a Tuesday. Not at night. Not with drama. In the middle of the day, under bright sun, like a normal person moving out of a normal place. I packed what I could carry. Clothes, laptop, a few kitchen things. I didn't take the couch. I didn't take the TV. I didn't take anything that felt like it belonged to that apartment. And I definitely didn't take the list. I peeled it off my door with shaking fingers and stared at it one last time. The paper looked ordinary in daylight. Cheap. Thin. Slightly curled at the corners. But the handwriting didn't feel human anymore. It felt practiced. Like something had been writing my name so often. It got good at it. I folded the list twice and put it in a grocery bag. The way you carry out trash. You don't want touching anything else. Then I walked it down to the dumpster behind the building. I threw it in, watched it land on top of old pizza boxes and broken furniture, and I waited. Nothing happened. No scream. No gust of wind. No lights flickering. Just the normal city noise. Cars. Distant horns. Somebody laughing far away. For the first time in days, I felt something close to relief. So I went further. I drove to a gas station and bought a lighter. And I came back. I stood behind the dumpster, away from anyone's view, and pulled the list out. My hands were sweating so badly, the paper stuck to my fingers. I lit the corner. It caught fast, like it had been waiting. The ink didn't smear. It didn't run. It held its shape as it burned, as if the words mattered more than the paper. I watched Rule #1 curl into black ash. I watched my name vanish. When the last piece turned to cinder, I crushed it under my shoe until it was nothing but dust. Then I left. I didn't tell the landlord. I didn't return the keys. I just drove. I crossed state lines before the sun went down. I changed hotels twice. I paid in cash when I could. I told myself that if the building couldn't find me, it couldn't learn me. That's what fear does. It makes you believe distance is protection. A week later, I signed a lease in a different city. Different skyline. Different smell. New paint. New carpet. New neighbors. A place that felt bright in a boring way. I didn't unpack everything. I didn't hang pictures. I kept my boxes stacked like I might need to run again. At night, I slept with a lamp on. It took me days to stop listening for footsteps. Days to stop checking my bathroom light. Days to stop flinching when someone knocked on a door down the hall. And slowly, almost quietly, I started to believe I'd made it out. Then, last night, my phone lost signal. 1 second I was scrolling, half asleep. The next, no bars. The room didn't go cold, not at first. It went still. That same unnatural quiet I remembered from the old place. Like the air had been told to stop moving. I sat up in bed. And that's when I saw it. A single sheet of paper on my nightstand. Not crumpled. Not slid under the door. Placed. Neatly. As if someone wanted me to find it exactly this way. Same cheap paper. Same calm formatting. Same handwriting. And a new date at the top. Today's date. Only one rule this time. No numbers beneath it. No warnings. Just one sentence, written like a fact. You can move. But you can't leave. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at it until my eyes blurred. Because in that moment I understood something worse than being haunted. The apartment hadn't followed me. It had finished learning me. All those nights, every knock, every whisper, every test, it wasn't trying to get inside. It was trying to get complete. I picked up the paper with 2 fingers and walked it to the kitchen. I turned on every light in the apartment. I checked every room, closets, shower, under the bed. Nothing. No shadow. No movement. Just me and my breathing, too loud in the silence. Then, from the wall behind my refrigerator, I heard it. A soft scraping. Like a fingernail tracing the inside of drywall. My stomach rolled. I backed away, and the scraping stopped. Then my exact voice, spoke from inside the wall. Not angry. Not threatening. Almost fond. "Daniel," it said. And for the first time, it didn't ask me to open a door. It didn't need to. It only said one thing, quietly, like a promise. "Check your nightstand tomorrow." I didn't answer. I didn't breathe. I just stood there with my lights blazing, realizing the final rule wasn't written on paper at all. It was written into me. Because no matter where I go now, every night ends the same way. With the sound of paper being placed in the apartment. Updating.